So I landed in LAX a couple of weeks ago. I got my bags and I went upstairs to the drop-off area, which is where you can catch an Uber. As I walked out the doors, it's a sunshiny day in Los Angeles, and I hear a man yelling for help. And I instantly dropped my bags and I ran towards him. He's laying on the ground and saying, "That woman stole my car. I got carjacked." And I help him up off the ground, and I look around. There's 2 traffic cops standing literally within 10 or 15 feet of where this actually happened, where this man got carjacked. Broad daylight, busy drop-off area at LAX. And I look around, and not only are there 2 traffic cops that did absolutely nothing when a man was yelling for help, but there's probably hundreds of people all over the place. And not one of them even moved when a man yelled for help. I couldn't believe it. I was angry. I was pissed. I lost my shit. I started yelling at the traffic cops. "What the fuck are you guys doing here?" I said, We're not cops. We're just traffic cops." Not one person helped him. Not one person moved when a human, was yelling for help. What kind of society are we to let that happen? It's not the kind of society that I want to be in. It's not the kind of society that I want my kids to grow up in. Hey, I'm Matt Skinner, and this is Building the Four-Dimensional Man. Today we're going to talk about situation awareness, being aware of your surroundings, and having a plan for what you would do in case of an emergency. That day I flew in at LAX, walked upstairs with my bags. I heard the man yelling, and there was an instant reaction for me to run towards a man yelling for help, pleading for help. Now, apparently, he had pulled up this sunshiny afternoon. He was dropping his wife off to take a flight somewhere. He was an older man. And he got out of the car, opened up the trunk, get her bags out, help her to the curb. And when he turned around, somebody had run up to his car, jumped in the driver's seat, and he had opened the passenger side door to try to stop them from jacking his car. And that's when he started yelling, apparently. The car backed up, knocked him to the ground, and then took off. Now, I learned later that they caught the person. Hard to get out of LAX because of all the traffic anyway, but especially in a stolen car. Stupid place to steal a car. I'd love to hear the backstory on that, actually. But the point of this is there was a man in a crowded area, hundreds of people, peace officers, whether they're traffic cops or whatever, yelling for help, and not one person even looked. Not even one person moved. Nobody ran to help this guy. He's a fucking human. But it got worse. Because, see, I walked away from that experience. I helped him up. I walked away. I really didn't want to get caught up in having to answer questions or be a witness or anything like that. My own bullshit. I was being selfish. I had to leave. I wanted to get home. So I walk away, and somebody else who was there and saw the whole thing walked up to me and said, "That was really nice of you. Really nice of you to go help that man. But you really shouldn't have done that. What if the person had a gun?" What? I shouldn't have helped somebody yelling for help? I don't even understand that. I don't even understand that. What if everyone did that? I mean, the only way that evil can win is when good men do nothing. I'm not sitting here trying to sing a song of my heroism or tell you that, anything about me. This isn't about me. What I am is disappointed in this society. I'm disappointed in especially the men in uniform specifically. There was men all around that did nothing when their fellow American, a fellow human, was crying out for help. And then to be basically reprimanded by somebody who saw the whole situation was just icing on the cake. Anyways, so I had to come back. I wanted to tell you this story because here's the thing. Right now, some of you have already decided what kind of man you're going to be. Are you the kind of man that runs when shit hits the fan? Are you the kind of man that runs in to help? Or are you the kind of man that runs away? It's important that you decide that before the situation happens, because when things do hit the fan, when the shit does go wrong, when things do go down, if you haven't already decided before what kind of man you're going to be, if you're going to be running in to help or if you're going to be running away to protect yourself, then fear will drive you when the circumstance occurs. Fear will be the only thing that comes up, and fear will seek only to protect you and no one else when those things happen. So I want you to think about these things. Wherever you go, whatever room or area, crowded area, what's your move if something goes down? What will you do? Especially if you've got your family with you, people you care about with you. What if there's an earthquake? What if there's a tornado, a hurricane, a fire breaks out, a brawl, maybe a shooter? What do? I'm not talking about living in fear of these things happening all the time. I'm talking about these are real things that happen to real people. And you need to decide what you will do, because that's the only shot of you being able to help people, being able to help your family, your children, your woman. What do you do in those circumstances? Not long ago, there was a shooter at a bar that I've been to many, many times in Calabasas, California. It's called Borderline. And right after that happened, I saw an interview of a man who tragically lost his daughter to some crazy motherfucker. Some asshole came into this bar. They're having like a college age type of a college night dance thing. And his daughter was shot and killed by a sick person who came there with a gun to do destruction. And he was asked, "What did you do when they started shooting?" He says, "Well, first I hit the ground and then I just ran out the back door. I ran." He didn't know his daughter was shot until many, many hours later. In fact, I would imagine he probably looked for her outside, out the back door where he was. He actually admitted to running 2 blocks away down into some other neighborhood trying to get away from the situation. And I just thought about the kind of pain, horror, sorrow, disappointment that I would feel towards myself if I ran from a dangerous situation and left my daughter to fucking be murdered. How he must feel about that makes me sick. And I actually feel compassion towards him because he acted out of fear and didn't have a plan for who he would be in a dangerous situation. He didn't have a predetermined idea of what kind of man he would be in an emergency. So he'll have to live the rest of his life knowing that he ran while he let his daughter get murdered. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. I hope to God I'll never have to be in that situation, but I know, I'll tell you now, I already know that when shit hits the fan, I'm not going to run, especially if I have my family that are protected. If there's people that need help, I've built the kind of man that runs in, helps. And I think that that's the kind of man that you want to be. So decide that now. Decide that now. Don't let fear drive you in the face of catastrophe. We have the opportunity to make this decision before it actually happens. Now, there's a few things that you can do right now and some habits that you can create in your life that will make you the man who will be a hero in the face of disaster, right? First thing you want to do when you're going into any situation, first of all, look at your home. What do you need there to protect your family? What do you need there to make sure that if something happened, you have a plan, you have a game plan? If there's a natural disaster, a fire, somebody breaking in, a robber, maybe worse, what's your plan for that? The whole thing is just premeditating what you will do when something goes down. Because if you've already thought about it, when it happens, you don't need to think about it again. You'll already have that map, that roadmap in your mind, right? When you go out to public places, you're at a restaurant, make it a habit of just identifying where the exits are. Identify where people are coming in, where they're going out. I'm not talking about living fearfully. I'm talking about being a prepared man, because that's your fucking job. I'm talking about having a fire extinguisher, having a security system, having and knowing your exit routes. If you go to a theater, know where those fire exits are. Look at them. Be aware of the people that are around you. Be aware of the people that are behind you and in front of you. Just being aware. What kind of people are they? I know. Yeah, we always say in this world, oh, I don't judge. And that's the biggest fucking bullshit I ever heard. Be a judge, because when you're the fucking king, it's your job to judge. It's your job to judge character. It's your job to know who's a threat, who's not a threat. Judgment is wisdom. And only wise men can be good judges. So be a judge of character. Be a judge of situation. Be a judge. Because that's what's going to keep you safe. It's going to keep you in a good place. The key here is being selfless. We use the example of a fireman, right? A fireman's job is to run into burning buildings. There's a fire. They've already created the man in themselves who will run in when everybody's running out. Think about the firemen running into the World Trade Towers on 9/11. They already decided way before the airplanes hit the building that that's who they would be. They would run in to help. They would run in to save. They would run in and do whatever it took to help people, to help their fellow humans. You got to decide now. Decide if you're selfless or if you're going to be selfish, because the most selfish thing you can do is be a runawayer, is to be someone who runs away. There's people in need. Imagine what kind of society we would be if we all decided to be more selfless, if we all decided to take care of one another, whether we knew them well or didn't know them at all. Decide now if you're the selfish person who doesn't do anything when a man in a crowded airport drop-off area cries for help. Or are you selfless? I didn't even think about if somebody had a gun. I heard a man yell help, and I went to help him. But I had decided a long time ago that I would be. That's who I am. That's who I will be. And I want you to make that decision now too. I want you to think about that. So just go into situations, go into areas, go into public areas, wherever you take your family, restaurants, hotels, if you're wherever you're at. My girlfriend at one point in time was telling me a story where she experienced a hurricane coming in Florida, and nobody knew what to do in the hotel. Some of the people in the hotel were telling people to stay in the rooms, and other people were telling them to get down into the parking garage, and other people were running out. It was chaos. It was pandemonium. If you're going to be in an area that has hurricanes, be a man that thinks about what would happen if I had a hurricane. What would happen if I was involved in an earthquake? What would I do if there was a fire in this room right now? Where would I go? What are my options? And you'll be prepared. It doesn't take a lot of time. I'm not talking about stewing over this or even dwelling on it, but just think about it. It takes no more than a second. I see the exit. I see what's going on. I see my situation. And it will become a habit for you. So by doing this, not only are you being selfless, but you're a model for your family. And when your family feels safe around you, they're going to emulate that. They're going to model that. And you want to raise your son as a prince into his own king. You want your woman and your daughters to feel safe around you, to know that you're a man with a plan and that you're prepared for anything. I think one of the ways that I learned this was when I was a kid, we used to go to the Colorado River. We had a boat and we'd camp out on the beach for a week at a time. My dad would take a week off work and we'd pitch a tent and we'd lay in the hot sand and water ski in the morning and play in the lake and all these fun things. But my dad, when there was a storm coming or when there was a boat that was broken down or damaged, in one case there was a storm and we saw this boat sink just, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred yards off the beach of where we were camping. And my dad ran to the boat. I ran with him. And we got in the boat and we went out into the water. Their boat was going down. Well, they had taken over too many waves over the back of the boat. Their boat had flipped up. It was going down. The people were falling out of the boat. A little speedboat, right? And my dad is reaching over the side and pulling these people into our boat because the waves were getting larger and the storm was coming. And there was one man who was an older man and he was panicking. He was straight up panicking. My dad had just scratch marks all over him. The guy was trying to pull him into the water because that's what happens when people are desperate. They'll take you down with them. But my dad was a hero that day, and I watched that. When there was trouble, my dad ran in, and that's how I learned it. Is that the dad you want to be? Is that the father that you want to demonstrate? Is that the man that you want to be? My dad would always say when we're driving around the boat and we'd pick up people or we'd tow people in that had broken down boats, he said, "We're Skinner Patrol." And that really stuck with me in a big way. My dad was always ready to help, no matter if we were having a good time. He was never too busy, too selfish, too self-consumed to help somebody in need, especially when we're at the river. And that was just a huge example. It was a huge lesson for me to learn growing up. And so I'm so thankful that I had a father that demonstrated that for me. So decide today what kind of man you're going to be. Decide today, if you're a man, when there's problems, do you run in or do you run away? Set the tone for your family. Make them feel safe. Most of all, set the example for your son, because we can't survive as a society if we have a community of people that do nothing in the face of disaster or in the face of evil. My name is Matt Skinner, and this is Building the Four-Dimensional Man. Vince Lombardi, inarguably one of the greatest NFL coaches of all time. And if you got picked to play for the Green Bay Packers under Vince Lombardi, like you were top of your game, top in the NFL. Like these are the professionals of the professionals. It's all about how they're vying to all sit on the Iron Throne, to rule the realm, to rule an empire. It's powerful. There's conflict. There's collision. The one thing that's constant throughout the whole show is that the kings are causes in the universe. They make shit happen. I'm Matt Skinner, and you're listening to Building the Four-Dimensional Man podcast, brought to you by the Financial Freedom Network.